we will get ideas about what to play when there are no obvious moves, meaning when there is no immediate capture or winning material or checkmating the king or opening a file in, let's say, some dragon position, and you say, oh yeah, I want to play h4, h5 and go and attack. Basically, well, how do we really get a plan, at least when weaknesses are involved? For example, let's start with what I consider a reasonable, not too difficult position, at least in my view. And again, most of the positions are from, I think it's quite a new book, an absolutely excellent book by Jacob Haggard. All these books are great, like seriously. I mean, they're just like, each one of them is better than the other. They're just really great books. Many of his books are really for high level, like masters, but I found in his new book, Positional Play, several really great positions that I think will be reasonable for also not very strong players. Not everyone has to be a master or above to do some of those positions. Okay, let's start with this one. A game of Kamsky, okay, our US champion against Al-Mudaiki. This is a position, equal material. The kings are not in big danger. There are not many captures in the horizon. Yet, I think for people that above certain level, or at least with the right way of thinking, this is what we'll do here slowly. There's looks like some quite clear idea for white to play in this position. So I will let you think a few minutes, and then we can discuss what do we think. If you have any ideas, I mean, we can just hear ideas. I'm not going to say right, wrong, but just sharing some thoughts can be a start.
I like B4.
B4.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a move.
With plans for later D4.
Okay. There has to be some other moves other than B4 here. Which other moves do we have?
A5.
A5 is another move. Okay, what's the idea of A5?
Make C4 or C5 weak.
Okay, so basically we have two different ideas. Actually, both of them are involving the pawn on C5. Either B4 and exchange it, right? Or A5 and undermine whatever is protecting it. So let's see, first of all, if we're going to play B4, okay, capture. Okay, I think this actually is impossible, right? It looks like it's almost possible, but not that easy to protect the rook suddenly. Quite cool. Black best move is to play rook takes bishop, not to lose a full rook, but black would be lost. But what black can play in this position? Maybe queen d6 is a reasonable move. I mean, still keeping some pressure on the square, aiming to go rook da8 in some situation. Maybe actually I can play, I can play this move immediately. I think I like this one a bit more. Let's go with this one. Because okay, I want to go b5, and if you play this move, okay, I'll play c5 and get the other knight. I mean, a4 is weak, so black has weaknesses also by himself, right? Now let's look at the other move. Both of your moves are understanding that c5 is a key for something. So let's play a5. Okay. What should black play here?
Doesn't white lose material here?
Why?
If white takes the pawn, then rook takes.
But wait. But if you take the, of course I'm not going to take here, right? I will take the pawn on c5. So let's say this. Let's say that you will take with the pawn or with the rook, either way. I don't have to capture, you know, this way of thinking I've seen a lot. Mainly it's with kids, in the sense of you capture this, I'm going to capture that. No, you know, last capture. Okay, I'm going to capture here. So what's happening here? Did white improve? Did black improve? What is happening in this position?
Did white improve because the bishop is in a pretty strong position and the pawn on c6 is pretty weak for black?
Well, first thing, when we're going to look at that, we're going to let's look at the pawn structure. All right, white has 2 pawn islands and black has 3. So black a5 and c6 are quite weak. The knight is completely dominated. You know, those knights, if they have a path to come to the center, they are beautiful. But the knight is completely dominated by the e4 pawn. I mean, seriously, this bishop is blocked. And black has some weaknesses. I mean, white is without any doubts way better. He broke black pawn structure and the pieces are wrong. Everything because of the move a5. So none of this would have been possible if, for example, I would have had pawns in the position. Let's say I would have black pawn here and white pawn here. Well, and the rook, of course, in a little bit more sane spot other than a6 when you have a pawn on a7. So let's put the rook on a8. No, okay, then black position would be totally okay. The idea of attacking the base of the pawn chain, well, Nimzovich spoke about it, I don't know, 100 years ago. That's how it's like, well, if you want to destroy a building, you can, you know, think about you're working in those super cool things that they show on TV, like how you, you know, use some explosive and make a building collapse. Probably it's better to do it on the ground other than, you know, on the 20th floor. So if you want to attack someone's pawn chain, start with the base. Hey, that's what we see. a5, which is an excellent move, is attacking the base of the pawn chain. So, see, we're looking at this seemingly innocent position. Okay, what's weak? c5. c5 is the target. We can undermine it and attack b6. For example, let's look at two or one position. I mean, one position that I think is just excellent. Actually, it's a game between Carlsen and Gelfand from 2006. And, well, Carlsen was a little bit not on the right side in this game, but we'll forgive the world champion for that. He was only 15. I think we are ready with this position, and it's actually black to play. I'll flip the board. This position, I think, came from one of the Slav versions. Most likely.
Carlsen was white.
Carlsen is white, yes. Gelfand is black. Moscow 2006. And it's really interesting. You know, we're going to see something else that again involves pawns. I mean, queen a5 is maybe a logical move. Okay, white can respond with bishop d2, or even bishop g2. Somewhat similar to how the game went in some way. For example, after take, okay, some pawn sacrifice, but maybe some compensation for white. Yes, pair of bishop and pressure, or maybe, okay, just bishop to d2, followed by bishop g2 and castle. That's, for example, something. Now, Gelfand, look how Gelfand played, and well, that's why top 10 players in the world, they are quite strong. He played this queen d5 move. Okay, very logical. If the rook moves, then he took away castle. h3 might be vulnerable if the bishop goes to any other square other than g2, although g2 looks like bishop's logical square, but just taking away castle is very big. So Carlsen played f3. I think that now looking at the position, some tactics like this probably not working, because maybe this thing kind of cool, but actually black is losing here. The queen's under attack, and then the knight will fall. But here Gelfand played queen a5. Bishop g2, and now c5. So why did Gelfand play queen d5?
Weaken the pawn structure.
To weaken, and more specifically, the f2, e3, d4 diagonal. If there is a pawn on f2, well, all the pawn chain is strong and the bishop is blocked. But forget for a second about the bishop. Well, the bishop is open and now it's blocked. The important thing is the e3 pawn is now really weak, which means well, this we didn't mean to do. Which means the bishop on c1 has to guard it. Let's see how the game continued. This, knight c6, castle, castle. Black was slightly better and won the game on move 38. So, pawn on f2, very nice for white. No, it's interesting. Let's look what the computer will think about this position. So he thinks black is half a pawn better, let's say. Okay? Now, and it's white to play. Now let's do exactly the same. Just take the pawn here. He thinks it's equal. So, that's tiny weakening of this f2 to f3 that actually is the big thing here. Okay, next game is a very similar idea. Maybe next game I will, now that I gave you some idea, you will think maybe how to play. Okay, there's no doubt that white is better here. I mean, it looks much better. The book says, okay, you can play queen d2, knight d4. I mean, okay, this looks like one dream square for white's knight, and this bishop. But Ponomarev found even a better move to play, and it's not h4. Oh, I want to take those. I thought that he fell. Ta-da! How did he play a bit better? It's really, really beautiful how he played. Queen d4. Okay, threatening checkmate is not a bad start. If bishop g6, what should white play here? White has a very strong continuation here.
Queen takes the pawn on d5. Oh, no, the rook's right there. No. Knight h4.
Knight h4. That's excellent move. Attacking the rook, attacking the bishop. The rook's protecting the pawn like we've seen. So black is going to lose a pawn. Preferably the h1, right? He doesn't want to allow this. Okay. So queen d4. Okay, g6. Now back. And now he's going to play f5 and open the lines, and he has a big target. I mean, white was better either way. But, you know, once again, we have basically top 10 player in the world or something like that. Look at the difference. Putting the pawn on g6, so there is one more weakness to attack over there. Well, now, little bit for you. You know, this idea, we're also watching, at least the position, that the first one that I started with, the idea a5. It's a very typical idea in an opening in a line called Rosselimo, which is a Sicilian line. The same idea as in this position. Let's see if you can find where is black weakness and how to attack it. Why to play? Like, you know, some of the computer games, when you move up in the level, they make you, okay, now the screen disappear, and like, you know, like, okay, like, yeah, like, I don't know, they have it in some of Super Mario or something, like, I don't know, I'm not that great in those things, but Okay, rook f3 is a move. You attack f7. Okay, other than resigning, let's say that after rook f3, I will play rook f8.
And then rotate.
Rook takes d6. I'll take with the rook. I'll take with the queen. Everyone's happy.
Oh, before the rook takes.
Be careful if you want to say queen e7.
Yeah.
What do you want to say?
Queen e7.
Why queen e7 is wrong? I mean, it's by the way you're thinking is super logical. Rook f7 attacking f7, rook f8 defending, and we're not moving the pieces, right? Because we are just not. So rook f3, rook f8. Queen e7, logical. The rook is tied to f8. You're attacking d6, but it's wrong. Why is it wrong? What is black going to play then? Let's see. Here, I'll be nice with my arrows. Here, here, and then queen e7. What would black play?
Take the pawn.
With the
With his pawn.
Oh no, with his queen.
Thank you. Better than, yeah, but that's exactly why it's not that amazing. Okay, there are actually some complicated ideas in this version, but for now let's see if we can, in order to find the best move in this position, there's no way that you can play the best move without identifying what are really the weaknesses in your opponent's position. There are no immediate tactics that are winning material, like what you were looking. That's actually excellent. Rook f3, queen e7, not working. But there is one idea that Adams played with white and indeed winning the game. Any ideas? Very good. Very good. Because we know this square, this one, this is the key weak square in black position. This is his big weakness, his king. And especially the g7 square. It's so many games had those ideas of h4, h5, endless. And black pieces are all in the other side. How many times we were here and saying, hey, look at the squares around the king. If there are not many pieces around it, the king can be a target. No, okay, this is very specific. h4. Now, we don't need to go deep and see the lines here. Like, okay, after h5, they mentioned that g4 actually leads to quite big advantage for white. If take, h5, again, basic ideas, not super. Of course, in a game when you play, you have to analyze it deeply. I mean, you don't just go berserk this way and okay, I'll throw my pawn. But the idea is, okay, I play h4. If h5, g4 is indeed very, very strong for white. Black played d5. Oh, he mentioned that other moves are also really bad. Okay, and white just won a big pawn here. Actually, he first exchanged. Okay, maybe he didn't want his rook on f6. Okay, and went on to win this position. He first exchanged and he went on to win this position. All right. So, what was the weakness here for black? Just the g7 square, and once you identified it, that's the right process. There are no moves. I always say there are no moves. Moves are meaningless. There are plans and ways to make them happen. That's where the moves are coming into the game. Exactly. So next one is really high level. Okay, it's like, it's not nice. I'm showing here all the games that Carlsen lost. Someone would think, hey, who is this kid? But okay, they're just really good examples. And maybe it just means that in order to beat him, people really have to play superb chess and get some things. So we're going to see a game, Kramnik against Carlsen from 2007. Again, Young, Carlsen. White is to play here. Any ideas which opening this came from? Queen's Gambit is tiny direction, but what the bishop doing on b7? What is Queen's Gambit? Okay, what's the name of Queen's Gambit when white plays g3 bishop g2? Catalan. Basically we have those moves. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight f3, knight f6, Queen's Gambit, if we play knight c3, g3, Catalan. So it's a huge alternative to our classical knight c3 Queen's Gambit. Everyone has been playing this, everyone. Anand won 2 games against Topalov in their match in 2010. Kramnik has pretty much been insanely playing that. Carlsen, all top players in the world, like seriously, pretty much all of them. In the candidates, we had some, in London we had the game, Carlsen was playing white against Aronian, and we had Ivan Chugrichuk, pretty much huge line. And that's very typical, because we get a position that, well, you know, I'll just show it for a second on ICC. I don't want to restart. Will I need to adjust if I start a new board, Ben?
I mean, if you put the ICC window within the red border, we don't need to.
Okay, I will show after how we get to that position. But it's very typical. Basically, black takes, white moves the queen and take, and black is ready to meet it with a6, b5 and develop. I will show you after. You know, it's always a nice idea. You know, it's much easier than to see some tiny bones and say, okay, which dinosaur it was. Much easier to reconstruct the chess position. You know, see the position in the middle game and say, okay, I think it came from this opening because I know the basics. But it already gives us a head start, because we know what are the main ideas there. I'm pretty certain black last move was a5. So obviously the first question that we all should be asking ourselves is, what's the first question?
Where's the weakness?
Before, weaknesses are great, but only after most forcing thing. Only after that. Yeah, exactly. I can take a pawn. You know, leave me. Weaknesses is basically you need to start writing a story in weakness. Sometimes it's a great thing. It means, okay, so here is the position, and my opponent has a weak b pawn, and I'm going to attack the pawn, and that's weaknesses. Capture is, hey, give me the pawn. So that's why it's much more forcing. Remember, we started here when I said, I know pretty much, I have idea about the level of players that get stuck with ideas. They already reasonable about tactics and about capture, you know, all those captures and attacking the queen, and they have solved hundreds, if not maybe tiny few thousands of puzzles in their life. So they already did some things, you know, maybe 15, 16, 17, 1800 players if they are. But then how to develop a plan in the middle game is, so only after we are done with all those super forcing things, we will get to something and say, okay, I don't have anything immediate, anything concrete to win material. First question, hey, I can take the pawn. Should I or should I not? What is black going to play if we take the pawn? Most important idea in this opening. Actually, I will show 2 games from ICC after. Push the pawn is right. Only question which pawn. To where? That's perfect. And this is the, if you know the Catalan, then you know getting rid of the weakness on c7 is #1 priority for black. By the way, when we say #1 priority, if you can win the queen, it will be more important. But after this position, black is already playing for advantage. I mean, he managed to, this is a weak pawn. He managed to take, he will take here, pair of bishops. Black is better. I mean, c5, we will see. even to Grishuk and other games. At some point c5 is being played and black is just supposed to be okay. For example, if white, let's say in a dream situation, okay, white played this move, black plays this, white going here, okay, you know, what? Look at this backward pawn, never gonna go away. White has the c file, and white actually has better ways to play. I mean, for example, better ways to play. So, taking on a5 is not that incredible. Actually, it's bad. It's just bad. Kramnik found a really big, high-level idea. I will just give you a few minutes. If someone will find it, huge bravo for him. Why to play? Almost. But if knight c6, I'm going to take it. You will take back, I will take on b4. Maybe we will exchange some pawns and maybe it will be close to equal or whatever. Okay, I will take the pawn on b4. You will maybe go and work on some weakness, but you're not going to get to win such position most likely. Okay, and if I'll take on b4,
Did I go knight to c5?
c5. Let's see. Knight b3 was played. Take. Knight c6 is the right spot. It's the right spot, you see? It will be a dream square for the knight. Knight a5. Bishop back. Knight c6. That's what you get. Here. Queen d6. Take. How is this knight ever going to be removed? Never. All those pawns are insanely weak. I mean, you know, looking at the position quickly, one say, okay, white is of course much better. But it's wrong. White is just totally winning here. Not better. I mean, you know, I look at the position, of course, okay, white's much better. But he's winning. I mean, let's see what computers say. This is not a position for +1, big advantage. Look, like almost 2 pawns up. I mean, actually, I think if you put it on better computer here, +2. It's unbelievable, equal material, but just your knight to c6 got there, but cannot be exchanged, which is of course what Kramnik played and ended up winning the game exactly in this way. But this is already okay. This is not for tomorrow in the chess club, you know. Playing a5 is a reasonable idea. Playing h4, h5, the previous position, one of the previous, to attack the g7 square. Okay, white had to understand knight c6, not allowing exchanges, not allowing the capture of the a5 pawn. If we will indeed go to ICC, do this magic. Okay, we can just see. So, basically this is our move order. It was played in Karpov-Kasparov in matches, Kasparov-Karpov, all colors. I mean, many world championships, because it's coming from one of the most solid, maybe the most solid, opening out there. The Queen's Gambit decline, and the Catalan is one major alternative. Okay, here we get. So here, perfect. Why did black play a6, b5? So you can have extra tempi, but this pawn is weak. Get those pawns out. Totally okay. So main objective for white to see if he can prevent c5, and black want to play c5. So there, bishop d2 is the most modern move. Bishop f4, bishop g5. Bishop g5 not supposed to be that much. Okay, taking. So he's going to remove a piece from c5, but everything is around c5, right? I want to play c5. I want to prevent you from playing c5. Okay, c5 equal. Alright, and the game was a draw. Other game in the same tournament, I mean there are many games, but we can just show that is Carlsen against Aronian. Okay. bishop d2. Before we have seen bishop g5 and take on f6, bishop d2. Well, the idea is actually very nasty in some way to play if knight d7, bishop a5, and then b4. This I think is the line that happened in Kramnik-Carlsen. He got the bishop on a5 and then he exchanged it. Bishop d6 is most modern move. a3. Okay, so it's very clear what both players are playing, and okay, here actually very cool idea by Aronian. Not unusual, but still it's always pretty to see those things. How the queen moves to the side to fight for the e4 square and long diagonal. a5, he wants to undermine the pawn, right? All right, take, defend. And c5 being played, and the game is just a draw. So you see, now we understand the huge importance, looking at some positions like that, understanding the huge importance of the c pawn, the c6 square, and, well, attacking the c pawn. We can understand why for Kramnik it may be less complicated. Well, one, is not a bad player. Two, why the idea of knight c6 kind of very easy. Well, this is pretty much a draw. So we got to see a little bit of the Catalan and a little bit of this position. Okay. We will do, let's do, I find this one to be quite a simple position if we are thinking in, well, right direction. Basically, what should white play here? Leko against Khalifman, Budapest, 2000. Let's say you just look at this position. This is, I would say, tiny less about just weaknesses, but maybe a plan, or maybe combining both. What to play with white? I mean, let's say you're a club player, like all of you are, like we are. You get this position, and, well, what to play here? Knight h5. Okay. And then g4. All right. I'll play e4. I want to get my knight to d3. I think it looks not bad if I'll stick it over there. So what do you go here? Knight d4, I'm just going to take on d5. You can have fun, take on f6, tell me that my king is weak, but I'll be a pawn up and we'll speak. I think so. I mean, yeah, probably it's not bad. So I play e4. Knight g5? All right, I'll give you check. You'll go. I have a weak heart, but I think I can take. Like, I don't.
Just taking the knight with the rook though. After the knight check.
Take.
The pawn for it, and we're threatening h7.
Check.
If you take.
Check.
And I take with the pawn. Now I got my rook at h7 also.
No, but okay, but what? I mean.
I don't know. I'm just saying that'd be better than moving the king.
No, because look, giving material is very easy and cheap when it's, let's see, OMP. You know what is OMP? Other material, other people's material, OPM, right? Let's put it this way, right? It's actually exactly the same. Other people's money, other people's material. When I do commentary on ICC, I was analyzing with some grandma. I say, I didn't know you're so aggressive. I'm not aggressive. I'm a huge chicken. It's not my pieces. It's Kramnik pieces. I'm very easy about that. No, but I mean, it's not enough. I mean, you need more to have this real attack. I mean, the idea, okay, is out there, but I think that you want to go g4, right? But you have some look. So let's think. So we understand, or at least we want to start kicking the pawn, throwing the pawns on the king side. I mean, if the knight was not on g3, does g4, g5, h5 make sense? Okay, so knight h5 runs into e4 knight d3. Okay, so knight e4. That's a. By the way, knight h5 is a very logical move. It's actually because it's actually more attacking. You know, it's like you're putting the knight in a more advanced post. But knight e4. Let's see what the book super smartly. I mean, I know that he's going to say smarter things than what I will say. So let me quote him. Okay. Knight e4. Let's read from the book. And actually, I'm reading it first time with you. I mean, I know the position. This move is the best for two reasons and should thus be relatively easy to find. First of all, it prevents black from playing e4. Your idea was perfect, but you failed to think about your opponent's best move. And if your brain would have told you, hey, my opponent's best move is e4, then that's why he's saying, then you combine both of them. So, and activating the bishop on f6. e4 is strong. Secondly, it exchanges the knight on c5, giving white the advantage of good knight against somewhat inactive bishop. There is, of course, a lot of play in the position, but still secures a slight plus. So he took. h5 was another idea. Okay, and white went on to win the game. I mean, he keeps analyzing it, but it was quite a straightforward way for white to win the game. So, what did we have here? You know, in this position, we get our idea plan. It's not enough. What is enough? To see the plan and then to see what can be obstacles to achieving what we want to achieve. If you tell me, hey Ronen, I'm going to play g4, g5 in attack, where do you prefer the knight? Maybe on h5, if you promise me black is never going to play e4. But it doesn't work this way. Alright, so we will continue, but how does a club player look at a position when there is no immediate capture is probably the thing that I get the most.